No disrespect to the entire world of sports, but the Kansas City Chiefs are officially eliminated from the postseason. And there's a lot of people that are in hate mode, and there are a lot of people, mostly about maybe 90% of America, are rejoicing to God itself. We don't wish the worst of anybody, but let's talk about it. I'm going to do my very best to be somewhat semi-biased because there's probably about maybe 95% of America that's probably ecstatic that the Kansas City Chiefs are officially eliminated from the playoffs. And then we got that big hole in the middle of America with a little bit of certain specks all over the place that are diehard Kansas City fans since they've been younger, or they're Taylor Swift fans and they adapted and jumped on the bandwagon. Now, there's a lot of going on. Many of these people are these people that are happy that Kansas City got beat. It comes to a point where you may be somewhat afraid of dynasties. Dynasties happen, but there's also this thing where nobody in America, nobody in world sports, nobody wants to see dynasties because they may ruin the game. They may ruin the excessive business of the game. It happens to in every seat. Like right now, the Kansas City Chiefs were in the middle of a dynasty. They won 2 Super Bowls. They won 3 of 4. And then they lost this past year to the Philadelphia and literally and the 2 times they were in the Super Bowl, they got destroyed. Anyway, the Dodgers are going to be in the middle of a dynasty. They've won 2 in a row. That may not even stop the way it's going. The only way that dynasty is going to stop is the work stoppage coming up. And then we go, possibly, the Golden State Warriors had their dynasty, and that's probably on its way down. That's probably on its way. And then, the Florida Panthers have won 2 Stanley Cups in a row the way they're playing with bully hockey, but they're so injury hit this year. They may still make the playoffs, but Florida's not the same gruesome bunch of bullies as they were because they got a handful of people on the IR. They've got a Winter Classic coming up. But in the meantime, let's just, for the sake of sports in general, always remember, fan is short of fanatic. We always cheer for the best teams. Remember when Kansas City, I made a video a while back for one of my first videos on the channel. Not one of my first, but when I started getting into a frame of work, I talked about the Kansas City Dynasty, about how they had one of the worst setups, in which that was the Super Bowl they won against the 49ers the second time around, in which they just continued to find ways to win. They were underdogs. They had to go on the road. Their regular season was crap. They had to go to play in Germany, can't come back. They had a couple injuries, and they still found ways to win, and they beat the 49ers in overtime. They just seemed like they always found a way, and Patrick Mahomes was this next big prototypical magician / megastar that just found ways to get rid of the ball. He just has an idea of how to play the game. He's immensely well coached by Andy Reid. And he didn't really have a great cast, but the cast that he had just found ways to win. And plus, they had a good defense with Steve Spagnuolo. But let's just put this in. Last year, they were on their way to a third, and they were 11-0, 10-1, 11-0, 11 something like that in 1-score games. And they won games by the weirdest, stupid ways. And you can go back and look. They won with a blocked field goal. They won with a walk-off field goal. They won with a no call against the Raiders, in which there was a fumble. They blew the ball dead, and Kansas City ended up picking up the ball, and the refs gave them the ball anyway. They won games the ways they should have never won games. And they got the number 1 seed. They beat Houston, and then you get Buffalo, and they found a way to beat Buffalo, and they got some calls in that game as well. And then they go to New Orleans to take on the Eagles, and they were absolutely steamrolled by a team that was just significantly better, to a point where the Eagles didn't even blitz. They only put 4 people on the line. And now there's a lot of sports people that are saying, well, Kansas City didn't win that because they didn't have an offensive line. Well, they did. And they couldn't stop 4 guys. Go look at the stats. Philly never blitzed in that Super Bowl, and they got rolled. Now, as I look in the stats, so today, I take a little bit of a step back and say thank you to the, and it's so still to this day still weird to say, the Los Angeles Chargers. I still say it's San Diego, but the Spano family has their way. Whatever. Anyway, the Chargers, and I still say nobody in LA cares about the Chargers. Well, Jim Harbaugh's making that a little bit different. They win 16-13 today. But the worst, I mean, it wasn't even, it was more of that punch in the mouth type of blue collar game that you get in the AFC North. Justin Herbert is playing with a roughed up left hand, but he's right-handed. Everyone knows that. They didn't run the ball too much, and they didn't even throw the ball too much. Their number one target was Oronde Gadsden. They're one of our other tight ends with 4 catches. Like Ladd McConkey only had 2 catches. So if you had him on fantasy, sorry about your damn luck. But Justin Herbert finds a way to win. He had a touchdown and a pick. But the big story out of this game really quick was Patrick Mahomes. He still tried. I mean, he's at 16-28 for $189. He did not throw a football. They could not run the football. They usually do run the football pretty well with Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. Their receiving core was nothing but a bunch of scrubs. But those same people won Super Bowls. Then when Rashid Rice came back, it all changed. Rashid Rice got 7 catches. Travis Kelce actually got a comeback game with 7 catches of his own. But Xavier Worthy with 2 catches. Tyquan Thornton, nobody knows who he is. He had 2 catches. Juju Smith-Schuster had 1 catch. Nobody knows where Hollywood Brown went. But the big story, and I wait 6 minutes into this video, Patrick Mahomes tore his knee on that final stretch, trying to get them in the field goal range. And Gardner Minshew had to come in and try to save the day. And unfortunately, it is way too little too late. And the Chargers, they got him in an opening week when they played that first game in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. And go figure, the Chargers finally get a chance to sweep them. And the Chiefs are mathematically unable to make the playoffs. I remember something that our good old buddy from Fox, from FS1, Nick Wright, who Kansas City Chiefs homer, literally said, and I quote, "If they beat the Chargers, they're going to win out, and they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. Just you watch." Well, you will be watching. What you're going to be watching is the Arrowhead Invitational is officially, as of this moment, canceled. And there's many people right now laughing. They're not laughing that Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL. Micah Parsons tore his ACL today. So nobody ever wishes injury on anybody. But I don't know if Mahomes was trying too hard just to get them in the field goal range. I don't have a clue. But I don't know if it was a contact injury. Micah's was not. He was trying to rush the quarterback, and he had a bad plant in the ground. But Mahomes they're not going to make the Super Bowl this year. The Super Bowl is going to look intolerably different this year. I really would like to just go off and say, first off, nobody wishes injury on anybody. Patrick Mahomes will eventually be back. He probably will not be able to play maybe 3 quarters of next season. So Kansas City is going to have to get a bridge quarterback until Patrick Mahomes comes back. So that adds another dimension to the upcoming draft and free agency. We wish Patrick Mahomes a speedy recovery, but we also know how nutty his wife is, and she's going to have some sort of a say in it. I don't know. We've seen worse. But think about the things that Kansas City's done. All the one-score wins they did last year. When they first won the Super Bowl, they won Super Bowl 4, but then they've been a laughingstock most of this time. They beat the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, and they went to the pandemic Super Bowl, and they lost to Brady and a bunch of Mercs for Tampa. Winning back-to-back, everybody could not stand it because there was that 4th and 2 against the 49ers, and Mahomes converts. We are going to get, regardless of who wins the Super Bowl, we're going to get the biggest breath of fresh air. Even if the Eagles some way, shape, or form get to the Super Bowl and win, and they win back-to-back, we are going to get the biggest shed and woof of fresh air in the NFL playoffs this year. Whether Buffalo makes it, which they won today in a shootout with the Patriots, whether it's Buffalo, Detroit, the Rams maybe have the best roster. Green Bay and Denver looked good. Denver, a young team like that, who knows? maybe it's just nice to breathe in, even if it's winter and it's cold and the air is thin. We do not have to see an Arrowhead Invitational. So Kansas City, I wish Mahomes a speedy recovery, but there is about 95% of this country that is absolutely intolerably blessed that the Kansas City Chiefs are out of the playoffs. And nobody wishes injury on anybody, but I may be one of those people that is so stoked that we do not have to go to Arrowhead in the playoffs. The Arrowhead Invitational is closed for now.